Hi, my name is Caleb Mitchell and welcome to this Sport Business Vodcast presentation for the University of Canberra based upon the topic of Australian federal government initiatives for regulating internet-based sports gambling. This presentation was created by Yuenyong, Minwoo, Kang, and myself, Caleb Mitchell. Internet-based gambling has become a norm in modern Australian society because of the extent to which it's sought after by consumers as a source of revenue as opposed to just being a leisurely activity. This subsequently raises the issue of how effectively the government can restrict gambling and to what extent their intervention is necessary. Many analysts assert that it is impossible to completely prohibit internet-based gambling. States work collaboratively with the federal government in Australia to regulate online gaming and gambling using multiple initiatives. This vodcast, for the purposes of this assessment, will outline the discussion of the initiatives applied by the Australian government and their effectiveness in regards to regulating internet-based gambling. Australia uses a regulatory model to control internet-based gambling. According to Macmillan and Grabowski, the first initiative was formulated in 1996 during a conference held by Australian gaming and racing ministers. Their deliberations led to the formulation of the national regulatory model that set a platform for controlling gambling products under domestic ownership. The ministers continued collaborating with other stakeholders in a bid to license, legalise, as well as regulate the industry. Ultimately, their efforts led to the formulation and implementation of the Interactive Gambling Act of 2001, which was designed to promote consumer protection. The IGA, as in the Interactive Gambling Act, has recently undergone amendment in March 2017 to mitigate the effects of unlawful offshore wagering. The original Interactive Gambling Act and subsequent amendments offer strict probity and integrity checks for parties interested in acquiring licenses to offer gambling services to Australian people. The legislation also heavily scrutinises the games and services acceptable for the public. This is evident when the IGA and its amendments provide guidelines for gaming software and providers' accounts to undergo periodic audits. Additionally, the IGA requires the gaming providers to respect and maintain privacy of their clients by protecting their players' information. The same legislations require the Australian Transaction Report and Analysis Centre, or AUSTRAC, to acquire a report of transactions from the gaming operators. In addition, the gaming providers must also conduct thorough authentication of the players to prevent minors from using their products. The gaming providers are also prohibited from using credit betting as well as advertising unlicensed gaming products. Lastly, all gaming providers are directed to observe the code of conduct that is formulated and ratified by the industry. Some of the provisions outlined above allow the application of technology as a regulatory tool. For example, parents can acquire technologies that enable them to filter and block teenagers' access to online gambling websites and activities. Gambling opportunities are continuously penetrating the web at a time when Australia is experiencing a rapid rise in the use of the internet. Innovation and the growth of the internet creates a situation where Australia is bound to become a trailblazer in the provision of internet-based sports gambling at the global stage. The country has potential technologies and the applications necessary for supporting online gaming. Nonetheless, there is a huge chance that entrepreneurs will try to take advantage of uninformed Australians by attracting them to try their luck in gambling. Banks proposes that unsuspecting Australians will lose millions of dollars before they realise the potential hazard of participating in online betting. Competitiveness will force entrepreneurs to create new strategies of enticing Australians to use their sites or applications. Critics of federal regulation may argue that internet-based sports gambling may involve consensual interactions between adults. However, the federal government of Australia is expected to exercise its duty of protecting Australians against such malpractices on a constant basis. Consumers in the domestic and international market must be guaranteed protection by offering a fair deal when using applications from all Australian jurisdictions. The reform and regulations discussed previously are necessary because they provide a basic regulatory foundation that guarantees maximum integrity for the local gaming enterprises. Without the involvement of the federal government, the Australian people will be subjected to interstate rivalry characterised by competition between different arms of the government to win a larger share of the market and profits. Macmillan and Wright assert that competition between states would eventually erode standards and decrease tax benefits enjoyed by the government as they try to outdo one another. Each state would pursue any policy that guarantees an expansion in their market share without considering the potential social costs that would affect the ordinary citizens. Ultimately, such actions would destroy the international reputation of the country's gambling regulation. Thus, the need for regulation is at an all-time high. In recent years, many analysts have questioned the effectiveness of the reforms and initiatives made by the Australian government. The initiatives outlined above require the gaming operators and their customers to exercise self-regulation. According to Gainsbury and Wood, self-regulation is not realistic in the gaming industry Because most players do not have the capacity to control their behaviours, while others may struggle to make logical choices when facing huge losses and wins. The legislations also offer an ambiguous distinction between interactive wagering and gaming. The regulations allow Australians to enjoy multiple forms of interactive wagering as long as continuous playing is not involved. Additionally, the regulations also limit the various interactive gaming types from being offered in public platforms like websites. The distinction between these two is vague, to say the least. Interactive wagering is expected to happen periodically and necessitates the player to demonstrate some skills as opposed to benefiting from luck to win a bet. The types and numbers of events for interactive wagering expand every year. International sporting, entertainment and political events are always available for betting. Australians can place their bets at any time of the day, thereby diminishing the periodical aspect of wagering. Besides, Gainsbury proposes that the use of smartphones is encouraging people to embrace internet-based wagering as opposed to voice call wagering. This has made gambling companies circumvent the rules by simulating phone calls through a click-to-call feature featuring in live betting. Lastly, the effectiveness of the Australian regulations is suffering from the dependence on international policies. The initiatives are increasingly inhibiting the development of internet gambling at a domestic level because Australian entrepreneurs are blocked from developing gaming websites. However, the Australian authorities do not have the power to block access to foreign-based websites. The federal government cannot exercise control at the international level, hence Australia can only depend on foreign regulatory bodies for support. Hence, Australian citizens can still engage in interactive wagering and gaming without limits as long as they use overseas-based platforms. The gaming industry provides opportunities for individuals and social groups to make money in or outside Australia. The need to avoid interstate rivalry because of online gambling has pushed the federal government to use its resources to safeguard the interests of the Australian citizens. Australia's regulation initiatives are designed to propel the country to the summit of the global gambling industry by nurturing a reputation characterised by fairness and integrity. However, the initiatives are yet to be as effective as the federal government would like them to be, due to the role of foreign gaming entrepreneurs, regulators and players. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and please place any questions that you have in the comments below. The bibliography will follow as soon as I stop talking. Thank you very much.